Moments that matter. Let me start by asking you if you've ever felt that you and your teams are simply rushing from moment to moment and not really focused on those moments that really matter. I see a couple of people nodding their heads. You know, we hear this all the time, and what we've found is that our great teams, our really successful teams, are those that know what moments matter to them, and importantly, so does their leadership. And for those teams, these moments are typically quite magic. So that might include a team member's wedding, a birthday, those team moments like someone's first day in the job, promotion, even leaving the team. But it's also coming together to bond, brainstorm, and innovate. All of those in high-performing teams are moments that matter. And, you know, the science we know says that having strong moments that matter can dramatically improve your engagement, satisfaction, and performance as a team. So with the return to office and hybrid working, we realized that it was more important than ever for teams to understand what their moments that matter were and how they would optimize for them. And we really didn't want to tell them what they, tell teams what these were, but we wanted to support them in this activity. So the thing is, our teams already had something that was awesome for aligning on things like these, something all really great teams have, and that is a team charter. You're on mute, Mylene.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Thanks, Darren. So for those who have used the Team Canvas before, we know it is a great tool for establishing team alignment, especially when you're starting a new team. It is a great way to understand your common goals, your purpose, your skill sets that you have in the team or lack of, your values, and how to best work together. We have used the Canvas widely within our teams, but more so at the start of the pandemic, when we must work remotely. The current Canvas helps us navigate through work expectations and integrate our life whilst working from home. We know how important it is having the ability to have a well-integrated life. Now that we are slowly going back into the office, we evolve the Canvas into the Team Charter, which goes a little deeper than the questions that we have in the Team Canvas. As we came to know, majority of the work can be done remotely. However, we need to be aligned regardless where we work. We need to ensure that interactions are effective and efficient for our teams and for our clients. And with all that is happening in the world, we want to know how we can best support our people and continuously foster an awesome culture, especially for new joiners, right? Grads and interns joining workforce for the first time. They're missing out on those first day at work experience. So this evolution of Team Charter help us navigate through those conversations on how might we best conduct the activities we do now as we emerge into the new world of flex work.
Thanks, Mylene. And so, what's really powerful is that what you see here, this is the extension we made to our Team Canvas. This was something similar, and it was used across our entire organization. And teams have used this in the last few months to facilitate, essentially a conversation about what their moments that matter are and how they're going to return to the office. So now I thought I'd share with you my experience of facilitating exactly this canvas and discussion with my team. I work with a team called the Digital Transformation and Data Team within Macquarie, which has around 30 people. And when it came time for us to refresh our team charter using this extended canvas in this way, we decided, you know what, this workshop itself is a moment that matters. And we also decided to use this as an entirely in-person workshop. So we decided to use it as an opportunity to experiment and essentially break the ice, to which I said, now that's a thing I haven't seen in a long time. So, it's been over 2 years since I'd done an in-person workshop. But whether it was fully remote, hybrid, or in person, the important thing was that this was a moment that mattered, and we wanted to bring the magic and make it matter to everybody. So what I want to do here is just segue a little bit and share some of the things I did to facilitate this in-person moment that mattered. Okay, so a bit boring and a bit obvious, but I got organized. you know, and I had to kind of go and find the stationery again. You know, like we use physical stickies, and we had to learn how to write freehand again. And there was all this kind of stuff like room bookings. Remember when you had to book rooms and set up and catering? So all this sort of stuff. And then there were props as well, things I'd completely forgotten about. So I had to go and find the, you know, the icebreaker football. We had these kind of recordable answer buzzers. And, you know, I wouldn't be without my Tibetan symbols. Really handy for not having to raise your voice, very calming too. And then don't forget your squeaky chicken, right? You know, your squeaky chicken dog toy, another great, not so subtle way of letting people know when their talking time is used up. And, you know, I really love the rocket timer on onlinestopwatch.com, you know, projecting a visual countdown for everyone. Now, I also had to go and remind myself, you know, how to run an in-person energizer. You know, how we actually survived without these in-person energizers, I don't quite know. They were lots of fun. And funretrospectives.com was my friend. Awesome for retro ideas, but also jam-packed with energizers and check-in activities. So in our instance, we opened up with a quick game of human, paper, scissors, rock, and this got us off to a flying start. My other go-to, play14.org, again, jam-packed with awesome games to open and close an in-person session. And I always like to wrap up with everyone sharing their most significant idea or learning from the session. So I ended with the Play 14 Jewel of Knowledge game, which is absolutely brilliant at this. So the point I'm trying to make is I had forgotten how much fun in-person facilitation could be, and also how much work it was. So my learning is be prepared and get organized. Don't do it alone if possible. Get some volunteers from the team and turn it, you know, in my words, into a coaching opportunity for them.
Thanks, Dan, for sharing those ideas. Those are the things that we have used, but we are interested in knowing what your favorite facilitation props or games or energizers are. So we've actually prepared a Menti slide for you. Let me just share the link through the Zoom chat. It's coming. So if you can just share what your favorite props to date, be greatly appreciated. And I'll
share your screen, Mylene, and what's the code as well?
Let me share my screen too.
So I'm going to do this on my phone.
There we go.
There you go. Go to menti.com and put that code in. So you've seen mine. What are your favorite facilitation props, games, and energizers?
Are you asking for specifically remote or not remote or either?
I think it can be either.
Right, okay.
Scavenger hunt. I love that game. Duck call. Can someone share what duck call is? I don't think I've tried that one before.
Sorry, this is just more prop. It's a physical duck call.
A physical call.
Yeah, that Ken Schreiber uses them on his courses, so I kind of got the idea from there.
Oh. Trivia. I love a good trivia. Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for sharing. We're going to go back into our main presentation. Dan, if you can share the screen would be great. All right. So conversations that matter. So typically in a workshop, you're nicely warmed up with all the nice icebreakers and energizers. But now comes the hard bit, the workshop itself and demystifying the reason we have come together. Now it's time to facilitate those conversations. It can be quite tricky as not everyone has the same needs and expectations, right? And you want the conversation to be inclusive. We want to avoid the sequential interaction. When somebody pings, the other person pongs, so there's only one or two people talking while the rest listens. So that's sequential. You get the sense that there are things to be said from other members too, however, it may not be the right format or the right space. We want to give everyone in the room equal opportunity and time to participate. And what we want is a simultaneous interaction where everyone in the room is ping-ponging and having those conversations. And how do you facilitate those conversations to ensure that you are having a simultaneous interaction? So Liberating Structures offers a variety of technique on how you can facilitate those simultaneous conversations. They look cool with all the icons, but all they are is a set of facilitation techniques you can use to create the space and encourage simultaneous discussions to happen naturally. These are 33 techniques that you can try to ensure that you and your team can have those meaningful conversations, surface the unknowns, and together come up with a solution, agreement, or enhance your current social contract and ways of working. None of these require expert training, and seeing them in action once is enough for anyone to start using them. Most take only 10 to 30 minutes, so they can fit easily with a normal meeting schedule.
Okay, so here's how the liberating structure folks teach you to visualize your group facilitation. You've got your traditional structures down in the bottom left corner, things like status reporting, presentations, managed discussions, all very ping pong, all very controlled and sequential. You've got open discussions and brainstorms, a bit more inclusive, but still the control of content is in the hands of a few. So lots said, not much accomplished. And then the 33 liberating structures are up in the top right-hand corner. They're designed to unleash and involve everyone. And I'm going to add one more to the top right-hand corner, which is World Cafe, which is what I actually use for my in-person workshop and what we'll experience firsthand in a few moments.
So you've seen some hopefully useful ideas for facilitating conversations that matter with teams, but we'd like to know what your favorite techniques are for facilitating simultaneous discussions. So here's the Menti link. I think this is the same one that we'll be using, just on a different page. Let me try and refresh it. Okay, and I'll share my screen. And here is the Menti link as well for those who have just joined. Okay. So what is your favorite technique for facilitating questions that matter? So anything that you have used in the past that you find useful would be great to hear from you. 1, 2, 4, and all. Lean coffee. Lean coffee. Open space. Excellent. Yeah, I totally agree. 1, 2, 4, and all brings all the voices out. Excellent. All right, thank you for sharing. And we're now going to go to our next segment, and I'll stop sharing my screen now. And we're going to go back to the questions that matter. Over to you, Darren. Oh, you're on mute, Darren.
Fantastic. Hopefully you can hear me now. So you should be able to see my Chrome browser actually. We've had moments that matter, conversations that matter. Now we're talking about questions that matter. And we're going to do a simulation of World Cafe. So worldcafe.com, theworldcafe.com. You can go and check that out online. I'm just showing you there, and there's all the instructions and kind of the background there. And I think Mylene, you're sharing a link to the mural board here that we're going to jump into, and just have a little practice of World Cafe. So just call out if I think the link is in the chat. Is that right, Mylene?
That's right. I've just posted the link into the chat. If you can please get into it.
Yeah, if you go into Mural, hopefully you can see what I'm looking at now. Call out if you have any difficulty getting into Mural. And over on the left-hand side, I'll just take you through World Cafe. So as we've said, you're trying to facilitate a moment that matters. And then you've got that challenge of how do you make it a conversation that matters? You can kind of see the pattern here developing. And we've talked about liberating structures, that kind of that freedom for everyone to have that simultaneous interaction. And World Cafe is well up there. And what it's based on is these 7 design principles for hosting conversations that matter, which is really handy because that's what we've been talking about. So let me just go through these 7 design patterns and also talk about it in terms of the exercise we're going to go through. So the first thing you do is you set the context. So if I set the context for what we're doing right now, we're going to have a little demo of what World Cafe is like. And hopefully at the end of that, you'll have a better understanding and you may feel confident to even facilitate this with your own team. Okay, so that's the context. But what we're all going to do is we're going to use that extended team canvas that we've shown to you, and we're going to actually go through that as a team. Obviously, we're not a team, so we won't be answering it as a team, but necessarily we'll be trying to get you to elicit what you're seeing in your teams and sharing that information with the group. Set the context, I've hopefully done that. Create a hospitable space. That might be a physical space if you're in the office with tables and groups around different questions that matter. For the purposes of this, it's Zoom, and we're going to go into breakout rooms. Explore questions that matter. Well, they're on the right-hand side of the board. We're going to go to those in a minute. We've got 4 questions that we believe matter. We're going to break into 4 groups to go through those. And the next stage is encourage everyone's contributions. So just be cognizant that we want you to make sure that everyone in your group is having the space to contribute and that you're listening to them. Connect diverse perspectives. You'll actually see the way World Cafe is designed, that you actually move around the questions and you start to build on the things that previous groups have put in to each of the questions. So by that respect, you're connecting your diverse perspectives and listen together for insights. So what we all need to do when we're in those rooms is not just be talking, but also be mainly listening, and to be listening about what people are saying, but also what they're not saying, and trying to connect the dots and come up with the themes. Right at the end, we'll do the playback, and that's where we share our collective discoveries. Okay, so hopefully that's a good background in World Cafe and how it will work for us. This kind of shows how you would normally shuffle around a physical room. Obviously, we have to do it virtually, so we're going to do that with breakouts. We're actually going to do it for 4 questions, not 3. Okay, so World Cafe instructions. We're going to join a breakout room in a minute. Now, I know how that feels like normally when I join things after work and I get asked to go into a breakout room, that's normally where I hang up and go and have dinner with the kids. So please don't do that. Please join us in the breakout rooms. When you get in there, each breakout room will have a question host. Each host will have a question that matters for the group to discuss. We'll ask you to discuss and capture your thoughts on the board, like put some stuff on the board so we can see it for 5 minutes, not very long. Afterwards, your question host will rotate to another group and a new question host will join you for the next question that matters. So essentially, you'll go clockwise through the questions and the question host will go anti-clockwise around the board. After everyone has rotated through all the questions, everyone will go back to the main room and the host will have a couple of minutes to play back the discussions. I don't know, I think that worked really well. I hope you guys appreciate how hard that looked. Like, it just blew my mind, like having to move around the rooms for the hosts. But hopefully it will work for you. I don't know how we're doing for time, Rowan, but all we're going to quickly do was some playbacks of what came out in the rooms. And for that, I'll just share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. And I think, Mylene, you were going to give us 2 minutes for each of the hosts to summarize.
And I'll use the mural board to actually time it.
Timer.
All right.
All right. So obviously mine was the best question, and all the groups that came into my room were the best groups. We had some really good themes coming in terms of certainly the in-person. So there were things like retros, sprint planning, refinement. They want to be finding value in doing that in person. There was also kind of like new joiners, new people coming to team, and farewells as well. So there was a lot of things going on there. coming into the office. We kind of agreed coming to the office was all more to do with drinking coffee and drinking beer, but you know, and that was kind of like the new purpose for the office. We had a couple of comments about people aren't coming into the office right now, but they intend to, and then missing it for those kind of things. And also there was someone who talked about their teams are now fully hybrid. They have to be hybrid because people are they're hiring people in different locations. And that person actually, I can't remember your name, but it was actually thought there would be nothing that they would actually need to come in person for, and they can't even do that anyway. I think that was about it. The one interesting thing I had was team building activities. We actually had a person that actually was doing those asynchronously, which seems kind of a bit of anathema, but you know, it's like a really good idea, I think, actually, if you can do that. So that was kind of in the asynchronous box, and that was us. So hopefully that was valuable for you, and I think we shared a lot of learning that way. Should we move on then? And although I've got about 30 seconds.
Yep, we can move on.
Any comments on that one? Just because it's kind of running down the clock. As I say, it was the best room, and all the teams that came into my room were the best teams. Rowan, do you want to go next?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Darren. Yeah, so I found this a really interesting conversation, and we used different colors per person. And you can see there's a cluster visually, I guess, in the middle on the Wednesday, perhaps Thursday as well. So quite a lot of in-person things happening in the middle of the week. And another theme was definitely the incentives around food and beverages, coffee days, lunch days, bribing people with Easter eggs. All of these things seem to be coming up multiple times with each group. And yeah, quite a lot. I was actually a bit surprised myself that quite a high proportion of the interactions seem to be around relationship building, not just Scrum meetings. So I guess there was some where we were saying we're coming in to do our sprint review, retrospective and planning, but there are also ones where we're just going to have coffee and not talk shop, not talk work at all, because we want to kind of get to know each other again. And for some of you, yeah, hadn't had a chance to even meet anyone in person, having joined the organization within the last 2 years. So yeah, having those opportunities to build relationships seemed to be a big theme as well. There also was quite a few comments that it is difficult to get people into the office, and so, you know, having some particular incentives or particular kind of almost programs, I guess, named kind of things to try to get people in on a particular day. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
I was going to say, Rowan, yeah, the free coffee is working really well at Optus when we all come back on a Wednesday. So again, I think looking for ways to incentivize people to dip their toe.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I'm moving to Optus, right? All right, over to you, Mylene. What was happening in question 3?
Well, let me share my screen. It was actually a really great discussion because as much as we love, you know, all the in-person activities that we had, sometimes, you know, there are certain elements that is great to be done hybrid or remote, but to actually foster those that environment within our team. So these are just awesome ideas that, you know, what's happening, what's evolving in each of the, you know, team members' organization. So offer or ask support. So some has tried 3 with news, kudos, welcoming new starters and playing a game. They have fun or social events for the team. And this is one that I like, game day mid-sprint, when, you know, anything that is fun and get together and know everyone. And some has the after party post stand-up, where you can just chill and talk non-work related. For diversity of thought, so if it's a hybrid environment, if it's remote setting, then you know, all the Zoom functions are obviously very helpful. So there's you know, videos on, using hand to indicate if, you know, someone wants to speak. And also encourage to disagree is one of the things that actually a good example to be able to have that diversity of thought. For learning and development, sharing knowledge within the team, dedicated time for weekly learning, and pair programming actually works well if both are remote. So there's golden tickets to make learning and development visible and prioritize Indira and Kanban was one thing that's really good. As for welcoming team members, there's a Scrum buddy assigned. So that's an interesting concept where we can have like a Scrum buddy as they come into the office. So at least that will give them a lot of information as they join the group. So that's what we had in the room 3. Hopefully I was not in mute the whole time, and we'll move on to room 4.
Excellent. What I'll do is I'll share my screen, make sure that I'm not on mute. Okay, so I'll attempt to talk very, very quickly on this one. But in terms of, the question was, what are your values, rules, and behaviors? I'd say is that I've identified is that the themes that we had is don't be a pen 15. So what's that? Don't blurt it out. Be kind, constructive criticism, and don't wear your code on your heart. So don't be a pen 15. We were talking about the behaviors of radiating information, being transparent, and not holding anything back in terms of information that would help the team. Helping the situation where you're not in a situation where you're not afraid to ask, and being consistent. Blurting it out is really, I suppose, is the environment in which that you have trust within the team and safety to be able to speak your mind, which is, I think, is quite sort of related to, constructive criticism, providing that feedback in a safe manner for people to digest and learn. From that, in terms of talking about constructive criticism, there was also a call out about communication in regards to reduction of meetings and emails. More the idea is that, hey, try to connect with individuals, pick up the phone or a Zoom to really sort of, speak your mind rather than, having it on email. I thought this one, don't wear your code on your heart was very interesting. It was more the idea of reducing attachment on the work that you create, the code, what does that mean is that having that safe space again for the team to actually review and actually help and to reduce that attachment on that code. In terms from a tooling sort of standpoint, people suggested that your tools such as Mural, Jira, they will fit for purpose. Some of the functions that people actually called out was voting it and actually being anonymous to actually adding information on there was of value.
Yeah, I like that. That whole dot voting doesn't actually work when you can see what everyone's voting on, but actually that problem's solved on some of the infinite canvases. I really like the social contract thing, that's section 4, because it's kind of like, I wish there was like a central repository of all the best ones the teams are doing, and hopefully that's what we've got to today. It's some really great ideas that you can pull down for your teams. Okay, let me just finish off and just go back to our final slide. And then we can get to our dinner. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that was useful. You're now experts in kind of like moments. Oh, why has it done that? 1 second. There you go. You're now experts in. Can everyone see that? Okay. My screen went a bit weird. Okay, good. Now experts in moments that matter. How to facilitate conversations that matter, and those questions that matter. So and also World Cafe. So hopefully that was useful. Our ask is kind of like, why, experiment with these things and let us know, like try and find ways to facilitate your own moments that matter, have those conversations that matter, and answer those questions that most matter to your team. Okay, so let us know how you go. Thank you, and we certainly welcome any feedback or questions.
Just some feedback. I thought it was really good to hear other people's answers, because sometimes I think, oh, maybe it's just me or it's just my team that's like that. But so to go through this process and to hear, the stories and experiences from other people, other Scrum Masters is really good. I got a lot out of it. Thanks.
Yeah, you first.
I was just going to check in with Darren and Mylene if you wanted to mention anything about the team canvas that you've been, I guess, talking to me about a bit about bringing the team together to figure out how we want to use the different options with in-person, hybrid, remote. Did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah. So, what in terms of how we're doing it at Macquarie?
Yeah, if you wanted to share, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this actually did come up in one of the rooms. So, you know, obviously we've extended this canvas, and you know, we've had a lot of success with teams having those discussions, and you know, the outcome I think is a good one where teams are, you know, that rather than dictating the days they come in, I think they're having a much better understanding of what their moments that matter are, and some of them are adding all of those all up, and there may not be many. So we are seeing teams that actually are having to create some new moments that matter, because I think they're realizing that, you know, if they want to be an effective team, then there ought to be a sort of minimum amount of in-person moments that matter. We're not dictating what teams should do. Teams are using this exercise to do what works for them. However, I think we are getting to the stage where teams are realizing that if your choices impact other people's choices, and I think we're starting to coalesce on some days, typically the days midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that seem to work for most people in our organization, and building some certainty around that, where we're saying, we're not mandating those are the days you and your team have to come in, but those are the days where the majority of people are going to be in the office. And I think that's solving some of our challenges that we were having, where people were coming in and just having Zoom calls still. And it was really a waste of time. The office is empty and you're doing those Zoom calls. Actually, let's be honest, it's a better experience doing that at home. So we are seeing, you know, general coalescing on certain days where everyone's in the office. That creates a different challenge, which is there's not enough meeting rooms again, and you know, and I think that's a better problem to have. And I think the thing that I talked about earlier, we are seeing the office being repurposed. It's becoming more of a collaboration space, and you're seeing a lot more interaction happening in the internal coffee shop, maybe the coffee shop around the corner, the local pub, and those collab spaces. So we've kind of repurposed the office as well. But as I say, this exercise that we've gone through has helped teams kind of come to that realization themselves and to actually, you know, put that into place themselves.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think for my teams, we facilitated this for a few people, and it is powerful to actually see all the activities that, you know, each team does in one spot. And when they saw all these, you know, ceremonies and events that we have as, you know, as a Scrum team or as a Kanban team, it just dawned on them that we have so many meetings spread out. So that became the moments that matter, that, you know, for some groups, they had all the meetings. They goes, if we're going to do this together, let's club all the meetings that we have as a group, and then nominate a day where they can have that all in person when they can. So I'm lucky enough that one of my teams are all Sydney based. So it's easy to just pick a day. We'll all come together. We'll do sprint review, retro, planning, refinement, all the meetings that the Scrum Master can come up with, and just have it in one day. And we get to have a little bit of fun in between to break those up. So today is actually one of those days that we first had a nominated day off this canvas, where most of the teams, the ones without an illness, can come into the office, and we actually had a very productive ones. And the team actually asked more of it, right? So that at first time they said, you know, once a fortnight, club all those things together. But after today's session, they goes, we should do this once a week. And I'm like, I'm easy, buddies. Once a week is fine if that works for you. And they actually wanted to have that as a group. So you know, it's not something that I force. It's something that they said, this is really helpful. rather than being, sitting in the Zoom room, try to reduce the meetings. They obviously know that it is helpful for them to be successful. So that's something that, at the end of the sessions today, once a week would be great after the Easter, so we can have those more meaningful conversations and get a little bit more faster in terms of refinement, because it's just, a 5-minute turnaround conversations rather than a half-hour, meeting in your calendar. So that was a great outcome, and using these questions to actually trigger those conversations and for them to come up with how they want to work. So that's just something to share.
I love the multi-dimensional aspect of the board that you've created, and again, the sort of questions and conversations that you can have on it. Like what I've observed is sort of squads maybe having some of these conversations, maybe they answer some of the questions at different times, but I think to sort of bring people together around this, and it's a facilitated event, obviously, a number of different aspects to that. Yeah, it's a great, and I could see the power of it, and definitely keen to try it with some of my teams.
Love it.
Pretty good. I was just going to add around the hybrid working. So obviously, as well as kind of how we repurpose the office, and we're seeing teams highlight their moments that matter and actually optimize for those, whether it's fully remote or fully in person. I don't think hybrid's going anywhere. We've, as was highlighted by someone else, we're hiring people that are not located in Sydney, and so the reality is that it's going to be harder and harder for us all to come together. And I think what we're finding is, obviously COVID's still here, but hopefully not, not forever, and well, forever, but not impacting us in this way. But I'm even seeing like people don't want to come in the office when it's literally torrential right now, and I actually agree with that. It's like, why would I come in and then spend an hour under the hairdryer? But we all used to come in for those things. So I think hybrid is a reality, and we are looking at the technology. I don't think it's quite there yet. If I was doing an in-person in the future, I would expect for there to be a few people that cannot come into the office for whatever reason. We would have to cater for that. We wouldn't be using physical stickies. We would be using digital boards, and I think the technology will come together on that with touch screens, better integration between Zoom and Mural and so on. So we're definitely looking at that digital experience going forwards.
Len and Darren, out of interest, we've had a taste tester for like 5 minutes of the sessions. Have you, from your observations with different squads, have you found like a Goldilocks time to implement this this exercise?
Interesting what you think, Mylene, but when we've put the canvas out, we've given teams an hour for this section. So the thing we really like about the team canvas is, because obviously you can, as Mylene showed you, you sit down and you come up with your roles, and you do strengths and weaknesses, your purpose, your values, your goals, that sort of thing. And obviously we've tacked on this bit. And so really, if you don't finish it first time, you can come back and you can focus, you can prioritize certain areas. So for this exercise, with these 4 questions, the sweet spot seems to be around an hour. What we've also said is this is a living thing. So a new joiner comes and they go, okay, there's the team canvas. I see how we're supposed to work. I might not like some of that stuff. So I'm looking forward to the next time you run this session. So it should be a living document. You should repeat it every 1 or 2 quarters. And when you do that, you might decide to focus on certain bits. So it's actually, okay, we're going to focus more on question 3, or we're going to focus more on it could be your, another part of the team canvas. And so that's what we're seeing is teams literally ad hoc going, I don't need to be told by Macquarie, time to update your team canvas. It's like, I feel like we need to go and revisit this section, maybe as a part of a retro. So they're doing that. But yeah, about an hour for this bit.
Yeah, I've done it a few instances. 90 minutes is the sweetest spot to actually complete the full canvas. But I would not sweat it. 60 minutes should be enough to cover the important ones. I've done it for senior leaders within Macquarie, and for time poor people, 50 minutes is the only time that they have to spare. So we've asked to prioritize which sections are important and we were able to wrap it up in 50 minutes. For other teams who really want to get through it but time poor, we segregated it in sections. So we were able to do 3 sets of 25-minute sessions. It's a little bit tricky because they had to remember what they have written. So it's just a little nudge on the side. Try and do a pre-read before you have your sessions so the ideas are fresh. But to be able to have like a full team finish it off, just so we can track and make each one of us accountable, a good 90-minute is something that is good to sacrifice. But yeah, you can tailor it to your whatever level that you're facilitating with. But those are just based on the experience that I've done facilitating these two within our teams.
The other thing I would add is you get some teams that say, "Oh, Darren, come and facilitate the canvas for us." So we don't like that. Like, I mean, unless you want to be facilitating these team sessions forever, we want facilitation like this. The things we just presented today to be a skill that everyone has. The way we've written the mural is it has lots of instructions in the outline, and anyone in the team ought to be able to facilitate the session, and that's essentially how it's been done.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, I'm really looking forward to doing this with my team. So thank you for sharing it. It's awesome. I just wanted to check, are we okay to use the canvas you sent us? Or?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything proprietary about. They're just questions, and you could probably think of your own. Ours are not exactly like this.
Yeah.
So feel free.
Okay, thank you.
That's
Yeah,
great.
thanks.
Got a lot out of it. Thank you so much. And good to see you again.
So Rowan, we're at time box 6:45. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I just think, who's got something out of that session? Hands up. I mean, thumbs up. I think all of us. Fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much, Darren and Mylene. That actually exceeded my expectations. We did a bit of discussion of what was going to happen, I guess, prior to this, but it really worked very well, I think. So yeah, fantastic.
And thanks for your support. Like we spent ages with these guys. I think probably we took up too much of their time. So thanks for the investment. It was very helpful. Thank you.
That's great. And great to see you all this evening. Thanks for joining. I wasn't sure we were going to have even a quorum where we're doing plan B in case we only have 3 people turn up and that sort of thing before the session. But wonderful to see you all. Next month, maybe I just quick show of hands again. Who's using coaching as part of your toolkit? Some sort of coaching, professional coaching, part of your thing? Yeah, quite a few of us. Yeah. Who's heard of clean language? Not so many of us. Yeah, I mean, probably looks like about half the number that said coaching. So yeah, that's what the next session is going to be about. Something I think it's not been discussed in Australia very much, which is really quite a major, I think, contribution to the field of coaching that we should know about, at least be aware of, if not skill up on. So yeah, spread the word to any coaching colleagues and friends you've got. We've got John Barrett from the UK joining us next month to teach us about that. And Derek's been studying a bit of coaching with John. So if you want to hang around and chat about John, I think Derek's the man too. But,
yeah, I guess a couple of thoughts on that is that I remember having a chat with a coach many moons ago, and his main sort of point of conversation is that when you facilitate, there's a biasness that you have as a facilitator that taints the conversation, and that's made me think about that and saying, okay, well, when I facilitate, is my agenda, am I pushing an agenda? And so what I've gathered from using sort of clean language is really about the words that you use to actually craft the questions to reduce that and to remain as neutral as possible in the conversation, which allows you as a facilitator to actually project what people actually, what the discussion is. So, very interesting stuff. So, I mean, if you're here next month, please join.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Derek. And yeah, it'll be 18th of May. So keep that in your diary. I think 8 p.m. or 10 minutes beforehand, we'll kick that off. So yeah, a bit of a later session. But thanks, everyone. It's great to see you. Have a great Easter break. Look forward to seeing you next month. And thanks again to Darren and Mylene.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really good.
Everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Welcome everyone and thanks for joining us this evening.